Hello and welcome to this week's video. My name is Anuska Taylor. Thank you so much for joining me. My cat Luna has decided to join me on today's video. I'm not sure how long, oh no, she's gone. She might be back. But welcome if you're new to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. And please don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And also if you enjoy my videos, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, leave a comment. I really do appreciate it, and it really makes such a huge difference. So on today's video, I'm going to talk about why you might be struggling to create lasting change. One of the things I hear from clients, whether it's a speaker, whether it's a singer, is I just need to go away and practice. And yes, there is absolutely some truth to that. We are dealing with a series of muscles. It's a very complex process. And essentially, we do need to strengthen, we do need to release, we do need to develop that coordination. And that does require practice. That does require specialist tools, techniques, exercises. So not taking anything away from that, but ultimately it's your mind that's driving how your voice functions. And you know that to be true because when you get nervous or anxious or scared, or you've got to have a difficult conversation with someone, suddenly the voice that 5 minutes earlier was working fine, suddenly you feel that sort of clamp down, that constriction, that tension within your instrument, within your throat, within your jaw, within your tongue, within your chest, wherever you feel it. So at the very extreme level, you know this to be true, but this is also working on a very unconscious level. And so what you are really dealing with here is your self-concept. And that's what I want to talk about today, because this is really how you see yourself, how you've been conditioned or programmed to see yourself, what you believe is possible for you, what you believe is possible with your voice, what you've been taught is acceptable or not acceptable. This will get you love, this won't. People will like you if you do this. If you do this, people won't like you. You know, this you might draw attention to yourself, this you won't. It's going to look different for different people. But fundamentally, if you want to create lasting change with your voice, you have to change at the deepest level how you see yourself. You have to change the self-concept, because the vocal habits you have created right now, most likely very unconsciously, are built on your current self-concept, how you have been programmed, conditioned to see yourself. And when you are struggling to create lasting change with your voice, it's because on some level there is an attachment to this persona or this kind of concept that you've created for yourself. So you have become very, and again, a lot of this is very unconscious, so you won't be sitting at home even maybe aware of this, but you have an attachment to being perceived in a particular way. So I'll give you a couple of examples, because this is with everyone, this is across the board. And until you really start to, first of all, bring awareness to this, but then begin to integrate these parts of yourself so you really become a whole person, versus what most of us do when we go through life and we don't do any inner work, is we're really cutting off half our power. So let me give you a couple of examples. So let's say your self-concept is one of a people pleaser and you're very conflict avoidant, you know, and you might have grown up in a home where it wasn't safe to express yourself for all kinds of reasons. Maybe you got shouted at, told off, even sort of physically abused if you expressed yourself. Maybe you experienced bullying as a child for expressing yourself at school. It can take on many different forms. But in some way, you have learned emotionally, it's safer for me to avoid conflict, and it's safer for me to just manage people around me and please people around me. So that is the persona, or that social mask that you have learned keeps you safe. And that's part of your self-concept. This is who I am. And we hear people say this all the time. I'm just a pleaser. I just like people to be happy. I like people to feel good about themselves. I like to make people feel good. And on the surface, there's nothing really wrong with that at all. We're not trying to make people feel bad about themselves, but it's more when we are cutting off half of our power. And we're doing it more as a way of controlling and manipulating, which the ego won't like me saying that, but this is all about controlling and manipulating other people, versus this is coming from a true place of wanting to please other people. So just start to pay attention to that. Is this really out of fear and trying to keep people around me because I want people to like me? Or is this just coming from a pure place of wanting to please other people? Now, when you have this kind of persona and you've got this kind of self-concept around, this is who I am, it means anything that's not, you can't go there. Meaning, what I see a lot with people who have this kind of persona, this kind of self-concept about this is the kind of person I am, they find it incredibly difficult to allow more power, more assertiveness, and more authority into their voice. Because, God forbid, people might not like them. They might create waves. They might upset people. They might ruffle some feathers. People might leave. They might upset a friend or a family member or their partner or their boss. And so they spend their life just trying to kind of fly under the radar and keep their voice in this little box. So then you come to do the practice and you can practice till the cows come home, but you will still be limited because your ego is not going to allow you to go towards that more powerful, authoritative, assertive voice, because that is death to everything that you have created to keep you safe. Now, the other side of this, I'm just giving you two sort of extreme examples here, are people that have that don't mess with me persona. They come across quite abrasive, quite harsh, quite hard, quite almost prickly, and it's kind of very defensive in another way. I mean, they're both defenses, actually. One appears to be more defensive than the other. And we all know people like this as well. Perhaps they're perhaps the kinds of people that we don't want to upset because we know they'll fly off the handle, they get upset very quickly, everything becomes a lot of drama, and etc., etc. So again, neither of these are right or wrong. It's just sort of noticing, what is my persona? What is my self-concept? What do I believe I have to be to feel safe and secure in the world? So perhaps you don't have a problem asserting yourself. You don't have a problem with conflict. You're happy to go and tell someone that you're not happy with them. But it comes with quite a lot of defense because you've learned this is, again, a way for you to keep yourself safe. And maybe as a child that you learned that this was a way to get your needs met. Perhaps this was, you learning to stand up for yourself, and this is what you learned. If I become the don't mess with me person, then I keep myself safe. So neither are right or wrong. It's just noticing what persona you have created and what that sort of self-concept is around, if I step outside of this, for my ego, it's not going to be safe. So the voice then will show up maybe quite abrasive, maybe quite harsh, maybe quite hard. There won't be probably a lot of emotion and vulnerability in the voice. It would just be very, almost slightly aggressive, almost bordering on aggressive, if not aggressive. And you'll probably find it very hard to allow yourself to be emotional, to allow yourself to be more vulnerable, to bring a softness, to bring a gentility in your voice. And that is going to limit you just as much as the people pleaser that struggles with authority and assertiveness. Either side of the coin, it's limiting your voice, because from my work, neither of those sides of the coin are really being authentic, because they're both created as a defense to keep you safe. So again, we're not making this right or wrong, but the goal of my work is for you to integrate the other half of you that you've pushed away. So in the case of the assertive or authoritative person, starting to bring a bit more vulnerability, allowing yourself to be more vulnerable, allowing yourself to be more emotional, bring more softness, bring more gentility, bring more melody into your voice. So it's not quite so abrasive and hard. And the other side, if you're more on the people pleaser, gentle, soft voice, I don't want to upset people, I don't want to create conflict, for you is going towards that more assertive voice, that more powerful voice, maybe speaking louder, maybe bringing your voice out more. and really owning your voice and allowing there to be much more strength and much more power. That is really your true voice, because the true voice is both. It's gentle, it's soft, but it's also powerful and strong. It's everything. And then you choose how you show up in a particular scenario. But what you'll find with the self-concept in this kind of persona is it will be incredibly uncomfortable for you to step outside of this. And you have to start to pay attention to this, like notice in situations at work or at home, where do I put the brakes on? Where do I not allow myself to express myself in a particular way? And maybe, if you are on the side of the more authoritative, assertive, you're very comfortable with conflict, maybe the only time you feel safe to be vulnerable is maybe with a pet or a baby, because there's not the same threat. But can you bring that same vulnerability to an adult human, for example? Because what I often see, as I say, with that kind of persona, is you just see this totally different person when they're around like their dog or their cat or a baby. And then it's the guard comes down around animals and babies, because they are, the purest souls in a way, that they haven't got a developed ego at that point. So this is the goal of reclaiming your voice. It's reclaiming all of yourself, so you can choose how you show up versus being driven by this internal self-concept. Then when you come to do the training and you come to do the exercises and whatever it is, the technique, whatever it is for your voice that you need, there won't be that internal resistance. You will allow yourself to go there. But it does require an awareness, first of all, because a lot of the time people are putting brakes on their voice and they don't realize, because they've just got so used to telling themselves, well, I'm just the person that does this, or I'm just the person that does that. And they've rationalized it and intellectualized it so much they have never questioned, well, why can't I be more authoritative? Why can't I allow myself to be the center of attention? Or why can't I be softer and more gentle? Fill in the blank. Now, I've given you the extremes. There's obviously lots of gray in the middle of this. It's going to look different for different people, but just to give you this idea. So start to pay attention to, on those extremes, where do I fall? And can I start to allow myself to go to the other side and just notice what comes up for you? And then I promise you, when you do the more technical, practical side of this, you will find that you will be able to create the change and it will stick, and you won't be in so much resistance to having the voice that you really want, which is your true voice. So if this is of interest to you, there's many ways you can work with me below. And I'll put all the links below, whether it's private coaching, my 8-month signature Speak with Impact private voice coaching program, where we go into this in a lot more depth on every side of this, the physical, the emotional, or I've got 2 online courses, and there's some options in the middle as well. So thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Ask me any questions below. If not, I will see you on my next video.